Call your sponsor.
Call you sponsor.
Call your sponsor.
Call you.
Bitch, call your sponsor.
It doesn't mean that I'm in Buddha mode, right? Or I'm in, oh my God, now you're connected mode and I'm going to say the right thing. No. It means that I am confident that I can be true to myself in the moment and I'm going to love myself no matter what comes out of my mouth.
Oh God, that is goals. Hashtag goals. I sometimes, so that is definitely a practice unto itself. And I sometimes have a caveat before I open my mouth in those difficult conversations.
Tell me.
Where I basically just give a headline. Well, not a headline. I basically just give a warning. It's basically that my intention is to come from a place of love and sharing and connection, and what comes out may not land 100, and that I am open to continuing this conversation.
I like that because to me, it's almost like a mission statement for the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And I would add that my goal in this conversation is to realign, and that's the intention and spirit I'm going to come from. And then I don't give a fuck what intention or spirit they come from. And
right.
I don't say that part out loud.
Right.
That has to be.
I think that would, yeah, I get that.
That
has clarifying.
I'm amazing and fuck you. Okay, let's have a conversation.
I don't give two fucks what comes. I clarify though. It's really important, you know.
But basically, like, I say this with in parenting a lot, which is I'm going to come at this conversation this way, and I don't have any control over how you take it or perceive it or what you run and do with it afterwards. But this is a spirit, so there you go.
Yeah. This is beautiful. I have a quick question for you. Do you ever, when you've ever spoken to sponsors, take notes?
That's a really good question. Sometimes I'll bring notes beforehand so that I don't forget, as we see that I forget a lot. But during the conversation, to be honest, I don't think I ever take notes.
So it's interesting, no, because you know that whole script, right? Of like, I was just thinking as you were saying, and I don't say to them this, and it's like, oh yeah, to me that was obvious, and sometimes it's not. So sometimes I enjoy having clarity around those types of things of like, yeah, and I'm not going to say it, you know what I mean? Here's my intention, and then blah, 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 and that last part I'm not going to say out loud, you know, but I know that in my being, right? Like,
right.
That for me, that like, I understand that vibe, like I get it. And that's not something necessarily I would take notes on, but in this whole reality versus scripted world, right? Reality in air quotes, obviously, but this thing of, you know, sometimes I find taking notes and I don't even reread them, but I don't know if it's me keeping busy. I don't really know what it is.
No, it's good. I got it. I'm jumping in, tagging in. Because I do almost have like a workplace sponsor, someone who's worked at her job for 30 years. She's navigated all the management. She knows all the back ends of HR. She's had to manage employees. She's had to have managers above her. And I do sometimes go to her and I go with a pencil and a pad and I say, how do I say, bitch, step off corporate?
Yeah. Yes. Corporate edition.
Yes, I do take notes for that one and I do have to have a script for that one, you know, like I can't go into reality TV in the corporate world as much as I'd love to like I'm a spiritual being and I'm in a human suit. And it's like, it doesn't work when I need to get a paycheck today. Sorry. I love it. Let's make this podcast amazing so we can just be ourselves and make 700,000 grand a day. But until then, I gotta put on a little bit of armor and play the game.
So there's appropriate things for appropriate time. Like, I get
Right.
that. And I appreciate that. I love that about you, is that what I'm actually hearing is that you have help in many facets. One in particular is career. And you are going to somebody that isn't speaking out of their ass. They're speaking from their experience.
Exactly.
And that you have like a beginner mind in the sense that you're remaining teachable, and that you're creating boundaries and parameters around what you are saying so that it lands on the other side.
Yes, because much like you and what you said earlier, I am not great at having conversations that are middle of the road. I either want to throw the drink on your head and scream and yell, or I want to go, yeah, sure, I'll do that, and be resentful underneath. The middle line where I do say, oh, we're getting to my favorite quote ever. Well, no, I'm going to say that every 5 seconds.
I'm at the edge of my seat. I want to hear it. Do I know this one, or did you change it again?
No, you know this one. Whitney Cummings' podcast, Good For You, which, okay, we won't digress. In the episode titled Codependency, Cummings said, codependency is the inability to be comfortable while someone else is in discomfort. It's the need to please others, even when it's at your own expense.
Oh my God.
Right.
Wow. I may have to listen to that episode, actually. I don't think I've heard that episode. I've heard her. Wow.
I just saw a clip of it. I've tried to listen to her episode. She talks far too much.
It's long, right?
Yeah, I'm going to talk about that, but I saw a clip of this, of her saying it, and was like, codependency is the inability to be comfortable while someone else is in discomfort.
Wow, that is.
And that's why I want to scream and yell and throw the drink, or just say yes, because just being there in my mature adult self and saying something that I know somebody else isn't going to like, and then having to sit there, that's death.
So I have something to add, because I always share this thing of my example of codependency is when somebody cries and I don't give them a tissue. Versus the codependent in me wants to give them a tissue, rub their arm, right? As I'm quote unquote being of service and helpful. But what is actually happening is I'm interrupting their experience. They can ask for a tissue if they want one, or pick up their own tissue. It's right on the table. And then I'm not experiencing any feelings that may or may not be happening by holding space for somebody else having feelings.
I'm making it about me.
My God.
Your tears have now become me handing you a Kleenex. I had an experience today that, and I'm having a little bit of a hard time not comparing how I used to handle stuff to how I am today. Like I do, and my therapist has kind of called me out, like, okay, we can stop with how you used to handle stuff. Like, this is how you're handling it today. Because I want to be like, oh my God, I used to not do this. Like, this is a miracle. And she's like, it's not a miracle. Like, this is how you're handling stuff. Let's make this normal. So, but there was an instance today where I'm supposed to meet somebody for a meeting later that I don't know that well. And I thought, well, let me meet them beforehand, and maybe we can get lunch or tea before this meeting, and we can get to know each other better. They reached out wanting to go to this meeting, and I told them where it was, and we're going to meet. But I was like, hey, let me spend an hour beforehand. But I was going to have to reach out and might get rejected. I did it without attachment to the result.
Mm,
Like,
mm.
okay, I'm going to reach out, but also if they say no, like, cool, I just have an extra hour on my Sunday before this meeting. And then they got the opportunity to write back and say, hey, I was bringing somebody to that meeting. Do you mind if this person joins us?
Hmm.
And I'm like, that sounds great. And then it was such a minutia example of all of this not taking care of someone else, not doing the thinking for them. I'm the one who asked. I'm going to provide places that are close by this meeting, and just even if this isn't comfortable or they may not like this, like I'm not going to please this person. And I do trust now that they're going to be able to advocate for themselves and say what they want and say what they don't want.
So am I hearing this correctly that now you are meeting, you're not only meeting them, but now you're meeting a third person?
Yes.
Okay. So for me, this is the beauty of the program of following this path, is that my brain thinks of all or nothing, yes or no, now or never. And what I hear happening or what I see happening, what I'm making all of this mean is that it's just expanded.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's not just this person, it's now there's another person. And there's more connection than there was before.
That's such a good point. Okay, can I tell you one more win?
Yes, please.
But I don't know that this has to do with the topic, but you just...
That's okay. I want to hear.
You just remind me of another win of something. And again, I used to handle this so much differently and I handled it really cool. I'm leaving for Chicago on Tuesday and I booked this way back in April. No two different people than the girl that books the flight in April than the one who has to take it in October. Whatever. The 5 a.m. flight, like 3-hour layover. In April, I was like, I don't care. Now I'm like, what was I thinking? So I realized the last week and a half that I could not find one credit card in my driver's license. And I'm practicing all this self-care and self-love and no drama and letting go. And I was like, okay, well, I haven't seen my driver's license in a while. It's not in that wallet. I've looked all the places. I thought it was at work. It's not there. And I just kept going, I'm going to let go. And then I was like, well, you have your passport. I don't know where that is either. I'm not good at admin. And I'm like, well, you'll look for it on this day. And if you find it, you find it. And then at a certain point, I had to go, you might have spent this money for Chicago and you might not have your driver's license or your passport and you might not be able to go. And I was like, okay, I let go of that attachment to that result. I surrendered all of it. And I was just like, I'm going to practice this whole higher self and trusting thing and let go. And yesterday I grabbed a purse and went out to lunch with my son and pulled out driver's license and that credit card. Wow. And was like, wow, thanks. Had no idea. And it was funny because we went to lunch. I went to lunch with his girlfriend and him and trying to impress at this cool place. And I give that credit card because it was the one in the purse. And the guy was declined because I forgot I had canceled it because I couldn't find it. So that little thing is just about like, I really, really surrendered. And it worked, and it might not have, and I also got okay with that.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I really needed to hear. I feel like you're like ninja status when it comes to the game and the practice of surrendering. And it's such a powerful reminder, and for me it's the example really of what that really looks like, and I'm just made a note because I want to do a whole other episode on this because this is so directly related also to like manifesting, and yeah. I want, like, we hear the manifesting, the crystals, the Sao Paulo Santo, all of that stuff, but there is on the ground actual actions. Like by letting go, I can actually receive and have space versus this fixed idea versus this script where there's only one possible outcome, you know? And I'm trying to force the yes, or let's do this. This is the way it needs to look versus what actually can come, which is all of these other possibilities. For example, you have these three, you're meeting two people now instead of one.
Yeah, the God deals that can show up when I surrender and let go of my attachment to the results.
Yeah. Oh God, I love this episode. This is probably one of my top ones. I'm already ranking everything. For our final five, you have a question?
I do have a question, and it is, if you could go back to the Sam of 2 years ago, what would you tell him, like almost like a hack? Like what phrase or sentence or paragraph, what hack would you give that Sam 2 years ago?
Well, I think the thing that's coming up for me is to really get clear on where I want to go and where I want to be. So what I'm thinking through the lens of career and joy of living and fulfilling purpose and using the gifts that I've been given, to really have clarity and or pray for clarity on where I really want to go. So I guess like in practical things, it's like I remember working with this one coach and they were like, you need to know what state you're going to know what direction you need to go in. You know, like if you're going from New York to Florida, like you're obvi going south. Like if you want to go to Cali, you're going west. You know, so it doesn't matter where in Cali. I may decide to land in Texas. I don't know, you know, but I need to have a general direction. And I think like that's what I would tell my younger self, is to just get clear on what is that general direction.
I love that. That's beautiful.
How about you?
Misty, 2 years ago, the hack sentence I would tell her is, you can take stock in the fact that you are enough. I'm telling you, I'm in it. I'm in some kind of flow. This is not normal Misty, but we're going to go with it, and everybody access it as long as you can. I keep telling people, like, y'all should call me and tell me if you have a question, because I'm in it and I have been here before, and I will be back in the place where I go, where I don't know and I'm scared. But right now, something bigger than me has me not scared.
You're connected. You're in the flow.
I'm in the flow.
Today. Well, you've been for a few days. Well, for some time now, I would say.
Yeah, it's been a week. I would say it's 7 days. I think I'm like on day 7.
Not to connect dots, but to connect dots. I think it's because it's the surrender ninja in you.
Mm-hmm. I think it's this podcast, honestly.
Oh.
I really feel like the more it's okay. Has anyone ever given credit to their spiritual awakening to TikTok and hosting a podcast? I don't know. But the self-esteem that I've been able to restore within myself, watching people on TikTok have my same character interestings or flaws or show their vulnerability, and me realizing, oh, I'm a part of. I'm not a bad person starting 20 feet below ground. I'm a part of this whole human experience, and everyone's scared and everyone's doing it wrong and everyone wants to be loving and kind and everyone wants people to love them. And I'm like, oh my God, this is so much fun. And look, that person fell. Ha! And look, oh, I fell too.
Yeah. Wow, that's so beautiful. It's like the identification and the belonging.
Yeah.
Ugh.
And I had to see other people. Like, I thought there was so much I thought was terminally unique to me. And of course, you go in the rooms and you hear it. And then it's terminal unique to me being an alcoholic, which is still bad and still below ground. And then you go on, you're like, oh no, I am human.
That's beautiful.
Thanks.
Thank you so much, Misty. I'm so grateful we're doing this.
Obviously, I am too. Thanks for the flow, dude.
Till next time.
Bitch, call your sponsor.
Call
your
your
sponsor.
sponsor.
Call your sponsor. Call you sponsor.
Call
Call
your
your
sponsor.
sponsor. Call you.
Bitch, call your sponsor.
Call your sponsor. Call your sponsor. Call your sponsor. Call you sponsor. Call you sponsor. Call your sponsor. Call you.
Bitch, call your sponsor.
Call your sponsor. Call your sponsor.